우리는 항상 그곳을 우러러 봅니다. 아직도 그곳엔 신들이 살고 있다고 믿죠. 사람에겐 혹독하기 그지없지만 장엄함으로 우리를 끌어들이는 곳, 산입니다. 산이 인간을 위해 만들어졌다고 여기는 이들도 있습니다. 그들은 인간의 한계를 산을 통해 시험하고자 하죠. 고지대엔 눈보라가 휘몰아치고 공기도 희박해집니다. 하지만 산에는 생명들이 살아 숨쉽니다. 사람들도 그 강인한 생존력으로 척박한 땅에서 살아가는 방법을 터득하고 그들만의 문화를 만들어냈습니다. 그러나 세상은 바뀌었죠. 오랜 세월 지속되어 온 그들의 전통도 최근 흔들리고 있습니다. 한반도의 산봉우리에서부터 아프리카 르웬조리산까지, 알프스에서 안데스까지, 로키에서 히말라야까지, 이것은 세계의 지붕, 산에서 살아가는 생명과 사람들에 대한 이야기입니다. 로키 산맥은 북미 대륙의 척추를 이룹니다. 미국의 뉴멕시코에서부터 북쪽으로 브리티시 컬럼비아까지 5,000km에 달하죠. 유럽인들이 처음 로키 산맥에 닿았을 때 곰과 들소 등 야생동물로 가득 찬 풍경을 발견했습니다. 그리고 수천 년 전부터 이어진 산과 그 신화를 품은 사람들을 만났죠.
There's so many stories that are being told from these mountains. We have to put our head to the ground and listen to what they're telling us.
원주민 단체 중 하나인 퍼스트 네이션. 여기서 전해오는 신화 중 많은 부분을 차지하는 것이 바로 들소입니다. 그들은 들소가 멸종위기에 처했을 때 무척 슬퍼했죠. 한 세기가 지난 오늘, 들소가 다시 고향으로 돌아왔습니다.
Bison have a lot of effects on the world around them. You can think of them as engineering the landscape a little bit. Bringing back this animal that's been gone for 140 years is logistically complex, and it's very expensive as well.
이제 들소들은 사람들과 같이 밴프 국립공원을 공유하게 됩니다. 이곳을 찾는 모험가들과도 함께할 테죠.
You have to go into the mountains with a ton of respect because they really don't care what you're doing in there. They're not going to look after you, and you have to trust your own abilities as a climber because there's direct consequences.
Ice! Ice!
회복력이 뛰어난 산은 살아있는 모든 생명들에게 더할 나위 없는 천국입니다.
You can't get the connection with nature sitting in your wheelchair on an asphalt pathway. And you come in the mountains and it's the majesty of seeing like the high rock forms that have been there for thousands and thousands of years and knowing that you're just one tiny small piece of the world.
산봉우리와 계곡이 흐르는 광야는 프리스틴 전망으로 사람들을 위로하죠. 또한 도전의 대상이 되기도 합니다.
The mountains have been here for thousands and thousands of years. They know things that we don't.
넓은 땅과 풍부한 광물 자원은 유럽의 탐험가들과 정착민들을 로키 산맥으로 이끌었습니다. 그들은 처음 목적과 달리 이곳에서 뛰어난 자연의 집을 발견하게 되었죠. 19세기가 끝나기 전 이 자연 그대로의 산을 보호하기 위해 그들은 국립공원으로 지정했습니다.
Banff is Canada's most famous and oldest national park. It's actually the third oldest national park in the world. And it's synonymous with wild mountain beauty worldwide. It's one of the world's great national parks. And you see images of it all over the world. I've seen them in doctors' offices in Kathmandu. I've seen them in remote villages in Italy. I've seen them in restaurants in South America. It's fascinating how this place is iconic in people's imagination. National parks, in my view, are more important than they've ever been, because when you encounter nature and you open yourself to nature, then you realize where you fit in the grand scheme of things. You are just part of the great pageant of evolution. You are just part of the living forces. And when you're out in nature and in a place that's about nature, not about people, and you get a sense of, gee, there's meaning in life that transcends just me and what I'm doing. I'm part of something bigger. And mountains are the places in the world that have retained their wildness best, the sense of primal magnificence and the sense that that's what pristine beauty, wildness means. That's what it is. And it's also very popular. So one of the really interesting challenges for this park is how do you have 4 million people a year come for wild mountain beauty and keep wild mountain beauty? And they've done a pretty good job.
1880년대에 놓인 캐나다의 태평양 철도가 로키 산맥을 지나는 중간 지점에 밴프 마을이 있습니다. 이곳 알버타 지역 전체는 동화 같은 겨울 왕국이죠. 썰매, 스키, 스노우보드를 즐길 수 있고 산을 오를 수도 있습니다. 아이스 스케이트에서부터 얼음 조각에 이르기까지 자신만의 특별한 겨울 휴가를 만끽할 수 있는 곳이죠. 밴프 센터는 예술인들을 위한 공간입니다. 산 풍경을 바라보며 사색을 할 수 있는 기회를 제공하죠. 본래 이곳은 토착 예술인들의 본거지이기도 합니다.
The mountains have been here for thousands and thousands of years. They know things that we don't. We always come to the mountains to seek the knowledge, to learn from all the animals. We're not the smartest beings. We're only a small part of it. So by seeing the mountains always there, I have that security that there's knowledge there that I can always go and tap into. In my language, Blackfoot, everything is about spirit. Our belief system is such that everything is alive. There's nothing inanimate in our world. All those trees out there, all those plants, those rocks, consequently have spirit. And so when I'm talking about all my relations, in fact, I'm not even talking about humans. I'm talking about the totality of those spirits contained in the environment. Those are all my relations.
퍼스트 네이션 사람들에게 산은 과거와 소통하는 통로입니다. 트레프리 디어풋은 북미 원주민 종족 중 하나인 블랙풋의 장로입니다. 그는 전통춤과 노래, 이야기를 통해 조상의 영혼과 만나죠.
I come up here and I bring some of our youth, I bring some of our men that are having issues with the going-ons in their life. They're distracted by life. And you bring people up here and they start listening to nature. And then they come away from this place feeling a totally different person, rejuvenated. You know, these mountains, they speak volumes to us, you know? You begin to understand the significance of every little being, even the little grass that grows on the ground. There's so many stories that are being told from these mountains. We have to put our head to the ground and listen to what they're telling us. People would come up here and sometimes the animal beings would come to them. And the spirits that live in these mountains come and tell them, this is what I want you to do. So they go back down and they tell the people, this is what the spirits want us to do. Moses went up into the mountains. Very similar story. A lot of parallels in our world. Eh?
퍼스트 네이션의 사람들에게 무엇보다 큰 의미를 가지는 것은 들소 버팔로입니다. 과거 로키 산맥에는 수백만 마리의 들소가 무리지어 다녔죠.
When my great-grandmother came to this valley, they came up the Missouri River by steamboat, and the steamboat had to stop for 7 hours for a buffalo herd to cross the river. Imagine how many animals that is. 7 hours of animals crossing a river. People who lived in this valley who were my ancestors directly saw that. And within 10 years, it was gone. Gone. One of the great ecological catastrophes in the history of the world was the transformation of the Great Plains from a Serengeti to just farms. There was millions of bison. There were elk, there were wolves, there were grizzly bears. It was crawling with life. And all of that was ended in a generation. And it was literally turned upside down with iron plows.
셀 수 없을 정도로 많았던 들소들이 무분별한 사냥으로 멸종 위기에 이르렀죠. 그들이 수천 년 동안 지배했던 풍경 속에서 완전히 사라져버린 것입니다.
I think everybody has the concept of these huge herds of bison that existed on the plains. There literally were tens of millions of them. We also know that they were not just on the plains, but they actually migrated into the foothills and the mountains right where we're standing here. Probably in much smaller numbers, but to escape winter storms and to go onto the windblown ridgetops where the grasses are more readily available to them. There's ample archaeological evidence that they did exist here. And they also, for 140 years, there's been an absence. And it's not just the absence of the animals, but it's the absence of the ecological role that they played here. So, you know, grazing these grasses, interacting with the elk. All the evidence suggests that they died out here in Banff National Park about the same time as they did out on the plains. And the reason is the same. They were overhunted. They were persecuted by humans.
My dad used to say, I grew up with people who were still chasing the buffalo. And so I was only a second generation from the actual buffalo chase. And so we grew up with the buffalo. The buffalo had this spirit, and that spirit was, we took it as our brother. So, if you were to take these mountains away, I'd be a little bit less Blackfoot. And when we take something as important as the buffalo, hey, I'm a whole lot less Blackfoot.
버팔로가 사라지면서 퍼스트 네이션은 그들의 문화와 자원의 핵심을 잃어버리게 된 것입니다.
The buffalo to our people is like the general store. It supplies everything for us. It supplies the clothing and food and the bones we use for weapons, making knives, and you can make belts out of the hoofs. When they're dancing powwows, they get the sound from those hoofs.
It's very important to me the role the buffalo had in our survival. We used every part of that animal. It was our beast of burden, so it provided us every essence that we needed in life. So when we're dancing these dances, we're dancing the dances that the stories and the mythology of our culture coming, these stories were passed on to young people. Now those people are in their 90s and they're resurrecting those stories into us. So it's my turn to start giving these stories back to the people and to our younger generation. These mountains, they speak volumes to us, I dream when I'm here and I see the animals living in their natural setting. It empowers me. In our ceremonies, we sing. The first song that we're singing is about the buffalo. So we're talking and dancing about the buffalo. And then when I start doing the buffalo dance, I become the buffalo. I become the dance. There's no more trickery in that dance. I become the spirit of that dance. The dance takes you over. You become the dance. I feel that there is a creator here. He left us something very beautiful.
놀랍게도 조상의 땅으로 되돌아오려는 버팔로의 꿈이 곧 이루어질 듯합니다. 한 세기가 넘는 시간 만에 들소가 산으로 돌아오고 있습니다. 이것은 수백만 달러를 건 도박이죠. 성공적으로 정착하고 번식할지는 확신할 수 없습니다.
One of the big lessons for me on this project has been how much more effort it is to try to bring something back. Bringing back this animal that's been gone for 140 years is logistically complex and it's very expensive as well. Bison have a lot of effects on the world around them. You can think of them as engineering the landscape a little bit, pushing back the trees, maintaining the meadows, birds picking up their cast-off fur to build nests. All those things have been missing. And an ecosystem is like a clock. All its individual components and parts are necessary for the whole thing to function properly. What we're trying to do on this project is bring back an intricate part of that, nature's timepiece, if you will, and ensure that it runs smoothly again. And that missing piece is the bison.
북아메리카의 가장 큰 포유류를 운송한다는 건 쉬운 일이 아니죠. 캐나다 국립공원은 5년간의 복원 사업을 위해 16마리의 들소를 엄선했습니다. 목표는 그들을 야생에 적응시키는 것이죠. 10마리의 새끼를 가진 암컷과 6마리의 수컷이 외딴 지역에 방사될 계획입니다.
We're starting small and we're going slow on this project just by virtue that bison haven't been here in anybody's living lifetime. And so it's going to take us as humans a little bit to get used to them again. And it will require some sacrifices from some people. So for instance, if you're walking or biking along a trail and you come around the corner and there's a group of bison there, you may want to consider about turning around or coming up with another route plan. And that's probably one of the most interesting things about this project for me. It really delves down to the question that I've really been kind of trying to explore my entire life, which is to what extent are we as humans willing to make room for wildness?
들소 복원 사업은 퍼스트 네이션의 땅을 사용하기 때문에 그들과의 합의도 중요한 사항이었습니다.
The neighboring tribes are finding about this treaty through what we call the moccasin telegraph. Hey, there was an earlier version of Facebook and so forth, see? And word gets out. And the treaty was about using the buffalo as a portal to achieve these goals about retelling and strengthening our cultures again.
The buffalo was a great significance to our people. Not only the Nakota tribe, but the entire First Nations in North America depended on the buffalo. But as time passed, buffaloes are now being introduced back to our land, and it makes us feel good and makes us feel part of us has returned back to the country.
버팔로들이 오고 있습니다. 특별 제작된 차량에 실려 400km의 도로를 달려왔죠. 그러나 여기서부턴 완전히 다른 운송수단을 필요로 합니다. 계획이 성공하려면 방사 장소가 중요하죠. 버팔로는 도로에서 40km 떨어진 목초지에 풀려날 겁니다. 이제 그곳까지 버팔로를 비행기로 운반해야 합니다. 오늘의 이 일은 로키 산맥의 생태계에 있어 역사적인 순간입니다. 토착민들에게는 그 중요성이 더욱 크죠.
One of the great pleasures and honors I have working on this project is to work with several of the First Nations for whom Banff Park is a part of their traditional territory. And for many of these cultures, the plains bison is what the salmon were to the coastal people. It's what the caribou are to the northern people in the Arctic.
버팔로는 퍼스트 네이션 문화의 큰 중심이죠. 그들은 이 일이 어떻게 진행되는지 촉각을 곤두세웁니다.
You know, I see the people themselves transformed in the heart of those ceremonies. You know, there is something that's unspoken that you can't even put your finger on that wells up almost from the ground, from the bones of the bison, from the grass that has been nourished by previous generations of bison. And it goes into the hearts of these people and then gets expressed, and it's just a uplifting energy that then I leave with and empowers me to, you know, get through the tougher parts of my job, like all the government bureaucracy.
We now have over 50 nations that have signed this Buffalo Treaty. So you can begin to see how that whole notion about reviving, re-strengthening, bringing back our traditional cultures is having. And guess who's doing it? The buffalo is bringing us all together.
140여 년의 세월이 지나 버팔로가 고향으로 돌아왔습니다. 들소들이 돌아온 이곳의 풍경은 과거 그들이 살던 때와 많이 달라졌습니다. 이제 이곳은 고속도로가 로키 산맥을 통과해 동물들의 이동 경로를 막고 있죠. 이러한 장애물에 대응하는 것이 또 다른 야생동물 보호 사업의 중요한 일 중 하나입니다.
Yellowstone to Yukon is a huge, bold vision. It's about connecting and protecting habitat from Wyoming and is a 2,000-mile-long vision all the way to the border of Alaska. And it is about conserving an ecosystem, one of the most intact mountain ecosystems in the world, and all of the native wildlife within them. One of the challenges in this particular valley of the Rocky Mountains is that the Trans-Canada Highway runs through it. The valley itself is really important for wildlife, particularly in the winter when they move from the mountains down into the valleys to get their food and other resources that they need. The road itself, when it was initially built, was a risk for wildlife becoming literally disconnected. One continuous population suddenly being severed into two. We know if that population stays relatively small that over time, those animals will suffer inbreeding, and if nothing's done about it, eventually they will go extinct.
매일 3만 대의 차량이 이 4차선 도로를 오갑니다. 3초마다 한 대씩 차량이 지나는 것이죠. 도로 양쪽 울타리는 운전자와 야생동물 모두를 위한 시설입니다. 어떤 운전자도 300kg에 달하는 엘크와 부딪히길 원하진 않을 것입니다. 동물들이 도로를 안전하게 지나는 방법이 있을까요? 캐나다 국립공원은 혁신적인 해결책을 제안했습니다. 바로 야생동물을 위한 고가도로입니다. 고가도로 건설엔 비용이 많이 들죠. 그렇다면 야생동물들이 이 도로가 자신들의 길이라는 걸 알아챌까요? 데릭 피터스는 그 대답을 압니다. 그는 관찰 프로그램의 일환으로 구조물을 검사하러 가는 길입니다. 이 연구는 고가도로와 지하도로를 동물들이 어떻게 이용하는지 알게 해주죠.
You can see on a structure like this is just crossing two of the lanes of the highway. That's a bit intimidating. If I were a wary species, like a deer or something, knowing that there's carnivores on this landscape, I might be a bit hesitant to use a structure like that. Some certainly favor an overpass, which if we think is 60 meters wide on the top, it's really like you're moving through a block of habitat from one side of the highway to the other, which is a very different experience than moving through an underpass. So for the overpasses, we tend to see some of the species like grizzly bear, like cougar, like elk, like the deer species. Whereas things like the black bear tends to favor the underpasses. And again, they don't seem to be sort of nervous about having the kind of the closed-in structure.
숙련된 관찰자들에게도 야생동물의 흔적은 심장을 뛰게 만듭니다.
Yeah, even though I see and I'm looking for tracks all the time, I know my heart does a little flutter when I see a grizzly bear track, especially when I know it's fresh and moving in the same direction I am. We have 11 mammal species that utilize our structures. We know that from our camera monitoring, and they're proving to be a very useful tool for monitoring. We can get a sense of how many animals are using it, whether they're family groups, and just a whole wealth of information from those. So it's giving us a pretty good idea how effective these crossing structures are. We had one particular grizzly bear cross the same structure 66 times in one summer. I mean, just a huge amount of crossings for one structure for a single bear. So just shows how much they are being used. The other thing we can get from these cameras is each image has a date and a timestamp. We know exactly when an animal or a human has passed by the cameras. And so we're finding some very interesting scenarios where we're seeing a wildlife species and something like a grizzly bear or a cougar, and we're seeing a group of hikers by the same camera, totally oblivious to the fact that just ahead of them there is a grizzly bear.
조디 힐트는 야생동물에게 이러한 구조물들이 얼마나 중요한지 잘 알고 있습니다.
Since the inception of tracking wildlife across, there's been at least 150,000 detected crossings. It's really amazing the different ways that these wildlife crossing structures are getting used. For us, science is really important in telling us where and what the needs are, and we work to implement this through a very collaborative, bottom-up, community-based approach.
이런 노력을 인정받아 전 세계에서 많은 상을 수상하기도 했죠.
Although it's a place-based conservation effort, it's also a globally inspiring model because we want everybody both in the system to feel like they're part of it, but also we want the globe to know that this is a world gem.
겨울의 로키 산맥은 보석같이 빛나죠. 한겨울 이곳에 얼어붙은 풍경은 세계의 모험가들을 매료시킵니다. 얼음은 아름다운 만큼 위험하기도 하죠. 이곳에 오른다는 건 그 두 가지를 몸으로 느끼는 행위입니다. 영하 15도의 혹한에서 빙벽을 등반하려면 담대한 용기와 안전장비가 필요합니다. 사라 후니켄과 윌 게드는 세계에서 가장 도전적이라는 나이아가라 수직 빙벽 등반에 성공한 경험이 있죠.
I remember my mom and dad coming to visit the Rockies before I lived here, and they came and watched ice climbers and said, "Thank God Sarah doesn't do that. That looks really dangerous." So when I come here, I do remember my mom saying that, but at the same time, she was always very encouraging, see my own potential, find my own path in life. And she was my biggest cheerleader. So I know that anything I accomplish, she'll still be cheering for me.
같은 얼음이라도 위치에 따라 강도가 다르죠. 등반가는 그 차이를 알고 걸맞는 장비와 기술을 사용할 수 있어야 합니다.
I guess when I first tried rock climbing, something stuck in me. I mean, it was scary and terrifying like it is for most people. You can push climbing physically, safely, in numerous ways. And then you can also push climbing in places that has more risk. Ice climbing definitely has more risk than rock climbing, and therefore it takes on a bit more of a mental challenge.
사라는 천천히 얼음의 두께와 질감을 느끼면서 빙벽을 오릅니다. 이곳은 영웅심으로 오를 장소가 결코 아니죠.
You have to go into the mountains with a ton of respect because they really don't care what you're doing in there. They're not going to look after you, and you have to trust your own abilities as a climber. You really have to believe in your own experience and your own judgment and yourself, and that's extremely powerful and extremely rewarding.
폭포를 정복하려는 게 아니라 자신의 한계를 극복하려는 정신이 필요하다는 거죠.
When you're climbing, you have to be focused on your next move. You have to believe that you can do that next step, something harder than you've done before. The biggest gift climbing itself in the mountains gives to me is that ability to be totally in the present. If you're not in the present moment when you're climbing, you probably shouldn't be doing it because there's direct consequences.
Ice! Ice!
모든 등반은 승리감을 맛보게 해주죠. 사라에겐 다른 곳보다 로키에서의 등반이 특별하게 다가옵니다.
It's where I feel the most myself. I guess that's the best way to put it. I look out my window every day and I see these raw, powerful, strong mountains. It's not like I feel always welcomed by them, but it's a very respectful relationship that I have with them. And now, having spent 15 years of my life really immersed in them, working in them, playing in them, living in them, they've become a part of me. And I guess I can go all around the world and explore other mountains, and it's beautiful and amazing, but whenever I come back to the Rockies, it just feels like home.
드디어 정상에 올랐습니다.
Thanks.
로키 산맥의 아름다움과 위험을 또 다른 방식으로 경험하는 이들이 있죠.
You have to believe the wolves would cross somewhere down here. So you'd have to think the wolves would cross somewhere in this stretch. I don't see any recent activity.
질 쿠퍼와 사이먼 잭슨은 산과 사진에 대한 애정을 서로 공유합니다. 국제대회에서 수상한 그들의 사진은 로키의 살아있는 야생과 마주하게 합니다.
Remember when we saw that grizzly bear right in those berry bushes?
Absolutely. It was an embarrassment of riches photographing the ospreys fishing, and all of a sudden a grizzly bear shows up on the bushes. Don't know what to photograph.
그들의 활동에는 지켜야 할 윤리가 있죠.
I think one of the great challenges with wildlife photography, obviously, aside from the subjects being hard to find themselves, elusive, unpredictable, one of the big challenges is making sure that the animals are in a place where we're actually able to observe real behavior, not behavior influenced by humans. We never bait. We never try to prohibit them and get in their way from doing what they naturally would do on their own, so that our stories and our education work is authentic. At the same time, we're making sure that we work within the confines of a park.
사이먼은 13살에 이미 청소년 환경보호단체를 만들기도 했습니다. 타임지는 그를 지구의 영웅이라 불렀죠. 두 작가의 작품 주제는 언제나 야생동물입니다.
Getting the perfect shot can be very painful. I always make sure I have my coffee. That's the most important thing. And you have conditions worse than this, minus 40. So it's a lot of work. It's a lot of hard work.
To have that moment where you wait for days, weeks, months, and sometimes years we've chased to try to find certain creatures. And then when you finally see it, you feel a real responsibility to get it right. And of course, the challenges are not only the conditions, but you're going around with a heavy lens and a heavy tripod. You're juggling bad light and bad weather. Sometimes your hand is literally frozen and you're banging the camera trying to get the shutter to go. Photography freezes that moment. It slows down time. Photography to me is an incredible conduit to appreciate and understand nature. I think in our really wired world, we're so busy, we don't always realize the beauty that's around us. Freeze that one perfect moment with an animal, with a landscape. And for me, that really brought home an appreciation of the wildness around me. It's incredible when you look at these animals, and they're so small. I mean, you're talking about, what, the size of one's forearm? There must be a couple of families living in
질에게 사진은 훌륭한 교재입니다. 학생들은 이 사진을 보면서 영감을 얻고 시야를 넓히죠.
It was incredible.
It's funny, when I used to teach in Toronto, these students have never experienced nature. They live in a concrete world. So when I show them these beautiful landscapes with these mountains, they don't think it's real. And I've talked to students, I've showed them pictures and talked about certain stories like an osprey nest and how they migrate from one area to another and what kind of food they eat. They just draw on that image and they ask every single question they can think of. They go away, they do research, they come back, and they just, that spark is ignited, that passion ignites, and that's what I love seeing.
자연과 멀리 떨어져 살고 있는 사람들에게 사진은 자연을 느낄 수 있는 좋은 도구가 됩니다.
Photography is a powerful medium to tell powerful stories. And I think what we've tried to tackle is make people realize that bears aren't scary man-eating creatures, or that wolves don't only prey on livestock, and that weasels aren't actually a weasel. They're in their personality. And what we tried to do is bring the personalities of these animals to life. We can take people from a place of seeing a beautiful photograph to making them get out and have an experience themselves, let them think about something they thought they knew, and make them realize there's so much more still to learn. Who knows where it'll go, but we're excited. It's an adventure. We love adventures together. We're doing something that we hope that will give us meaning in our lives and in our work, and at the same time, leave the world in a better place.
로키 산맥은 겨울 스포츠를 즐기기에 그만이죠. 산은 영혼을 맑게 하고 육체적으로도 활기를 불어넣죠. 이는 장애가 있는 사람의 경우도 다르지 않습니다.
I've always felt like I needed a connection with nature. When I was injured with my spinal cord injury, that was a pretty big blow to kind of life as I knew it. And you come in the mountains and it's like the air is different, you know? It's just the peacefulness and just the happy contentment that comes over me. Yeah. I don't know how to share that with somebody. You have to experience it.
안드레아는 체육교사이자 실력 있는 아이스하키 선수였습니다. 그러나 2002년 친구와 함께 탔던 오토바이가 그녀의 삶을 완전히 바꿔놓았죠.
I got up in the morning and we played hockey and I actually left the ice a little bit early. And if there's anything I regret about the day of my crash, it's that I got off the ice early. Because I had no idea what was going to happen. So I flipped down my visor and the light went green, and I guess we rode for another 20 minutes, but I don't remember any of it. Going around this big curve, I hit a pothole. I was going about 80 kilometers an hour and hit a barbed wire fence, and the fence acted like a bungee cord, and the bike flipped over it, and I went flying off. Then I woke up 8 hours later.
그 후 안드레아는 다시는 걸을 수 없게 되었습니다.
Yeah, the first year was... I'm sure anybody who's had a spinal cord injury will tell you the first year is just like, it's a mess. And a lot of people commit suicide in the first year because it's so hard and you can't... It's like being in a dark pit and you can't see the light because somebody's put a blanket over you. And you just wonder what the point is in trying to live a life like that. But after the first year, you kind of figure out, okay, I can do this. How's it gonna go? So.
장애인들을 위한 산악 봉사단체인 로키 마운틴 어댑티브를 만난 후 안드레아는 많이 회복됐습니다. 그러나 슬로프에 오르는 것은 여전히 힘들죠.
The first time they put me in a bucket and they just let me slide down the hill, I was like, oh my God, this is out of control. But the adrenaline just surged. It was so weird because I had this flashback back to skating, you know, my hair in the wind and the cool breeze on my face and that sensation of sliding. And I was just like, this might be something good.
안드레아의 자신감과 도전 정신은 가르치는 강사도 감동하게 만들었죠.
She's amazing. We would never dream about that 6 years ago, I would say. She was always falling, but her determination and her perseverance. And the first one we did, really, she didn't fall. We were both crying at the bottom of the hill, like we couldn't believe it. It's like a dream come true. You never think this would be possible.
스노우보드 선수인 퀸은 시각장애인입니다. 안조직 결손증이라는 선천적 장애를 갖고 태어났죠. 그는 이어폰을 통해 장애물과 땅의 상태를 알려주는 코치의 얘기를 들으면서 슬로프를 내려갑니다.
The first time I got to snowboard, to be honest, it was painful. I fell a lot. But I could feel that the big thing there is feeling of freedom. And when you can move yourself at great speeds and go down a hill, wow, I've never felt like this before, to be in complete control.
Higher, climb higher up the wall.
I may not always be able to see the slopes, I may not be able to see the terrain around me, but I feel it.
A little choppy, hang onto that back leg a little bit more. Yeah. Woo-hoo!
After you come to know a mountain a bit, you greet it as an old friend. And you say, hello, I remember you. And you come and you learn how to manage it. And also by doing that, you learn how to meet other new friends, other new mountains.
You can't get the connection with nature sitting in your wheelchair on an asphalt pathway. I run into trees and I laugh because it's so fun. Like if I come out of a ski day and I've got pine needles sticking to my head, I love it. And you come in the mountains and it's just that connection to nature. It's the majesty of seeing the high rock forms that have been there for thousands and thousands of years and knowing that you're just one tiny small piece of the world.
It's almost a spiritual sense being in the mountains. It gives you that feeling of being connected with nature. And I can really get that feeling of no one owns the land. You're just a person alone in it. It's you seeking out challenges for yourself and learning to advance and grow, just like the trees grow around you. Nature's erosion and wind and rain and snow, and creating these beautiful creatures that are the mountains. We in our own lives face these challenges, our own wind, rain, and snow that eroded us, but in the end it creates beautiful people. And I think that's such a great analogy, and I try to live by it, so.
It's peacefulness. It's like my mind and my body have finally reunited. Society puts so many limitations on me. Watch this, sucker. I might not be the fastest skier, but you try it, cause I'm ready to rip it. And I just need 2 runs of skiing and I'm on top of the world again, you know?
Get that on camera.
Go back.
시간의 흐름 속에서도 흔들리지 않고 한자리에 우뚝 서 있는 로키 산맥. 그 모습이 많은 이들에게 자유와 영감을 주고 있습니다.
When I'm out in wild mountains, an enormous sense of being in the immediate present comes over me. And I feel this sense of well-being and this sense of God's in his heaven, all's right with the world. Rocks could be falling off a cliff through just weathering, or you just watch snow melting into a stream. And all of these things are just the vibrant veins and nervous system of life just acting in front of you, and you get to be there and be part of it.
It's a big world. We're just little people in this world, and it reminds you that there's a lot more going on out there than we think just in our heads every day. You know, you're a small piece of a big puzzle.
For me, the most inspirational part of these mountains is the smell of the pine sap running through the trees, the crunch of aspen leaves underfoot as I start walking into the forest. Those evoke memories from my childhood of fishing and hiking with my own family. And I'm quite jealous of the multi-generational connection that many First Nations have. I can just feel a smidge of it, and it helps ground me and remind me of who I actually am and how much I actually matter in a much larger world, which is not very much.
The mountains, in the same way that the buffalo is us and we are the buffalo, I can say the same thing about the mountains. They're like my grandparents. I can always come to my grandparents for knowledge. We have a saying in Blackfoot, "Hey niminiki ninastakoi, gentkeki takai." When you see Chief Mountain, you know you're home.